Last week was crazy for the stock market, and this week is showing no signs of slowing down. As we can see over the past couple days, the stock market's been all over the place, and this week is set to be giant, especially for individual stocks. The earnings calendar for this week is insane. We have Tesla, Snapchat, Netflix, AT&T, and many more. Stick with us to the end of today's video. We're going to cover all of these earnings and some great plays for tomorrow and the rest of the week. But Tom, let's get right into it.
Yeah, Mike, looking at the heat map from Friday, the market was extremely red, and we actually did see the market sell back off after that amazing move up Thursday. Whenever we first dropped down Thursday morning with that inflation data coming out, once we ripped back up, I thought maybe we would actually continue up last week, but we ended up getting that big sell-off coming in Friday right at open. You can see there was even some good momentum to the upside before initially selling off there right at market open. So pretty crazy, Mike, to see the market reverse that much. But I will say the SPY is still sitting on some key levels here. There's a key support at 356. Hopefully we can keep holding this level. It's been holding pretty well over the past few days, besides when that inflation data made it fall down. But overall, Mike, I mean, the SPY held up pretty well last week. Hopefully the support holds and we can maybe get that momentum back, especially with a lot of big events coming up this week, like the earnings, Mike. I feel like a lot of people are going to be looking at a lot of these earnings coming up. And I know last week we had big banks report like JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, and stocks like that. And tomorrow we're going to have Bank of America and Charles Schwab report. And I will say, Mike, the market has been very mixed so far as these bank earnings go. So JP Morgan actually popped up on Friday and did pretty well, closed up in the green with their earnings. But for example, Morgan Stanley did not do as much. They actually saw a decline in investment banking revenue and ended up falling down a little bit. But JP Morgan actually saw revenue move up, but they still did see profits fall, obviously. Profits fell 17% from a year earlier to 9.74 billion, which is unfortunate, but their EPS and revenue actually beat expectations. So, you know, there is some negative stuff going on with these banks, Mike, but in the end, it seems like they're holding up pretty well. And JP Morgan CEO did say that even though like they were green, there are significant headwinds in front of us because of the war in Ukraine, tightening, interest rates going up, and just everything going on right now in the economy.
Good stuff. So, yeah, it was definitely a mixed day for Friday with the bank stocks, but let's take another look at that earnings calendar because it is just insane. Looking at Tuesday, we have Goldman Sachs and Netflix. Those two are going to be giant. Netflix been taking a beating over the past couple of earnings reports. They've had many gap downs lately, and I know that they're trying to get their subscriber numbers back up because they've just been losing so many subscribers, and they're doing like an ad-supported plan now. So Netflix should definitely be one to keep on your radar for like this week. It's going to be a crazy move. Looking back at the calendar really quickly, we have Tesla on Wednesday, Procter & Gamble, IBM, stuff like that. On Thursday, we have stocks like AT&T, Snapchat, American Airlines, and then Friday, Verizon and American Express. I definitely skipped a couple, but there's just so many earnings that, you know, it's like, it's going to be a big week.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we are really kicking it off. Those banks really started it for us last week, and hopefully we start to see good movement. Even some of these like defense stocks, Mike, like Lockheed Martin. We even see Las Vegas Sands on here, which has had some news over in China recently with Macau and gaming. So be aware for that. But yeah, huge week, Mike. Honestly, one of my favorite stocks to watch this week is probably going to be one that most people are keeping off their radar is Procter & Gamble. I know a lot of those stocks like Procter & Gamble and, you know, just stocks that make consumer products and stocks in the healthcare sector obviously move a little bit different than the overall stock market does. And I feel like PG could maybe have a good bounce here. They're sitting on an amazing long-term support. And as far as some of these earnings go, I think that'll probably be one of my favorite ones to watch, especially with that big support there, Mike. That is looking pretty solid here on the daily.
Yeah, thanks for highlighting that support for us. You know, it's going to be a big week. And another thing as to why earnings are so important is because, like, we see gigantic moves in individual stocks. Inflation data, that's very important. GDP data, that's very important for the overall market. But with earnings specifically, that's like the only time we see gigantic moves with individual stocks. Like over the past couple, no, yeah, over the past couple quarters, Netflix and like Meta and like other stocks like that have been having like double digit days like very frequently. Like Meta had a gigantic gap down in February this year. Same with Netflix. So it's gonna be a crazy week. Tom, what's your most anticipated report for the week?
My most anticipated report, Mike, is probably not going to be a huge surprise to anybody out here. It's going to be Tesla for sure on Wednesday after close. Of course, Tesla is one of the most watched stocks in the market. And whenever I look at Tesla, they've been talking about a lot of stuff lately, Mike. I actually saw new rumors last week about their new Tesla phones potentially being announced in December of this year. Now, I know it's just a rumor right now, but there's a lot of articles running out. They're calling it the Pi phone or the Pi phone. I know that probably won't affect their earnings much, but they've been talking a lot about getting into robotics. And obviously, they've been opening up more factories in China, and they've been getting that factory going along with the factory in Texas, too. So hopefully, they can report upticks in revenue, Mike. And I know that their delivery numbers this year came in slightly under estimates. So that does worry me a little bit with Tesla, but I hope that they report good numbers with those factories opening.
Sounds good. My favorite report for the week will be Netflix. This stock has highs of around $700 and this year has lows of around $160. Right now it's back to 230. To me, it looks like it's in like one of those short-term uptrends. It's going to be crazy. Like that's the best way I can say it. I think over like the next couple months or so, there's a good chance Netflix will end up at least getting close to $300. I do not think, like, I'm not trying to say that's going to happen soon, but I think like over the next couple months, it's pretty possible. Obviously if they have great earnings, that can make that happen quicker than not. But either way, they're a crazy stock and they move big time, which is great for trading.
Yeah, and it looks like they've actually been kind of channeling here between somewhere around to like 211, 212 with a high of the channel around 250. So seems like it's just been staying between there ever since the middle of August. So hopefully you can start to break that back to the upside this week, Mike. And if they report good numbers, we could definitely see a nice gap like we've seen in the past. I'm not saying we'll see a gap like that, though, Mike. That was an insane drop earlier this year.
No doubt. All right, well, Tom, let's get right into some good setups for tomorrow. One stock I'm really watching is Shopify. This stock is so oversold, and to me, it looks like it's showing some pretty good signs of bottoming out. This thing is definitely a runner. Shopify always has some big moves, whether it's to the upside or the downside. Just around a year ago, this stock was trading for $176. Right now, it's trading for $26. Shopify's business they're not going out of business anytime soon. I think they're at a great level. I've been adding to this one for the long term, but even for the short term, like they're a mover, so it's definitely on my watch list for some movement to the upside.
Yeah, I could definitely see it. And look at Shopify over the past couple months, Mike. Look at all these small uptrends. It seems like almost every other week, this stock is having some type of opportunity to the upside or the downside. Like you said, it's very volatile. And honestly, this daily chart almost looks like a heartbeat monitor, Mike. I can't believe all the bounces off that $30 support. Hopefully we can get back up around there. But one of my favorite setups this week, Mike, actually has earnings on Friday, which is Verizon. So maybe we'll see a bit of a pre-earnings run up here. I will say we've been talking about a lot of stocks that have been falling down a lot lately, Mike, because obviously the market has been going down so much. And look at Verizon. I mean, this stock is down, but it's not like it's been slowly going down over the past, 6 months. Well, it probably has been 6 months at this point, but it's not like it's been going down as slow as some stocks. I feel like, Mike, this is just almost like a jackknife straight down. We've had very little uptrend, very little consolidation on this stock ever since July. Like I said, pretty much just jackknifing straight down. And we had that big, huge candle on Thursday here back to the upside right off of a key $35 support. So I'll definitely be keeping my eyes on Verizon. That does seem like a pretty good bounce there. And even though the market was down Friday, they actually held up okay. So I like the setup and hopefully it starts to move up ahead of earnings.
And this stock pays a 7% dividend. So it's pretty nice in that sense too. It cash flows pretty well.
Yeah, it drives in a lot of investors. And I know, Mike, a lot of stocks have been raising their dividends lately, but hey, I hope Verizon keeps it up because that'll probably drive in a lot of investors for the longer term, especially with all that 5G stuff going on.
Yep. Another stock I'm really watching is Citigroup. So they just reported earnings, like Tom said earlier in the video. Tom, check out like a max weekly chart on this one. It is bouncing off of a gigantic support right at $40 a share. It's huge. You know, Citigroup, it has been on my watch list for a while now. I've been buying into it for shares for the long term. I think that they're in a pretty good position. Warren Buffett has been also buying this stock, which is a great sign to see. They also pay a 4.75% dividend yield. And my plan with this one is just to buy and hold. I know it's not necessarily like a short-term setup, but I kind of like it for like the short term anyways. But it's mainly like a long-term investment for me, but it's at a pretty good level, and I'm pretty excited, and I feel pretty confident in this one.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. And I like that support, Mike, at 40. That looks really good over the past 5 to 10 years. I will say at the beginning, when I first showed Citigroup on the chart, Mike, we were seeing that big 2008 drop. So guys, don't really take that into account. That was a bit of an outlier there. Definitely look at the chart for the past like 10 years or so. Yeah, another big one is actually Apple. And I usually don't talk about big blue chip stocks like Apple, for example. I normally stick with stocks like AMD, normally some smaller, bigger moving stocks. But Apple, I feel like, Mike, is in a pretty good setup here. Looking at the daily chart, it has been kind of bouncing up ever since that big bounce last week, and they got really close to support around 130 to 132. So I was really happy to see that bounce. Now, I will say Apple did start falling off pretty hard Friday as the SPY fell down, but it is consolidating right on that support there. I'll actually draw it out for you guys intraday so you can see it a little bit better. If the market starts recovering up, Apple will be a great stock to look at back to the upside. It's obviously pretty correlated with the SPY down here at 0.71 over the past year. So I do think that it can be a good play, especially if that SPY starts to recover up next week, Mike. I feel like Apple is almost just one of those stocks that consistently goes up with SPY. There's always a lot of stocks that, obviously are correlated somewhat to the SPY, but I feel like Apple's is pretty correlated, at least on most of the big green days.
Yeah, and they're the heaviest weighting in the S&P 500, so they definitely have a big influence in the market overall. But Tom, let's get right into the momentum plays for tomorrow. With the first one, we have Amazon, but to the downside.
AMZN to the downside. What's going on here ahead of the holidays? But yeah, go ahead and make them break down below 105.35, which is that low of Thursday, Mike. And I can't believe Friday they almost got back down there.
Through that, with the next one, we have DAL to the upside.
Delta, nice to see these travel stocks continuing up. If they break intraday resistance at 31.40, look at scalping some calls.
All right, and then with the next one, we have Intel, also to the upside.
Nice. Intel. Go ahead and make Intel break above, again, intraday resistance right around 26.35.
Perfect. So we are watching Intel and Delta for potential day trades to the upside tomorrow, only if they break above the levels Tom listed. And then we are watching Amazon for potential day trade to the downside tomorrow, only if it breaks below the level Tom listed. But if you guys are looking for daily options alerts, check out that first link in the description and the comments down below. We have some awesome bots. We call out swing trades a ton. We have a private community with a bunch of options plays every single day. Our bot's awesome. It calls out day trades every single day. The best play from last week popped for 67.5% in the same day. It was with GLD call options. It went from $182 all the way up to $305. Definitely check it out. In the worst case scenario, you can cancel at any time. If you do decide to sign up today, an automatic coupon will be applied at checkout. So definitely check it out. It's awesome. And like I said, worst case scenario, you can cancel at any time, and you can chat with Tom and myself all day long. But Tom, heading into the big week, do you have any final thoughts, any final setups that you're watching?
Yeah, honestly, Mike, as far as the market goes, it's been an insane past few days. One thing I just wanted to talk about really quick was the insane volatility that we've seen, because it's kind of throwing me off over the past couple of days, Mike. We had that big drop down, huge move back up. Now we're kind of falling back down. I feel like the earnings this week are going to be extremely crucial for the market. We really need to start holding support here, guys. When we look at that SPY on the daily chart, Mike, it started to look last week, especially with that bad inflation data, like SPY was going to start selling off and maybe get back down to 340, but we ended up consolidating a lot around 348 to 350. Hopefully that's the bottom. 350 should be a pretty big psychological level in people's minds. So I just wanted to touch on that because the volatility has been insane. I feel like we need to be a little bit careful at the beginning of next week, but hopefully we start to see the market, even out a little bit and start to have some better movement because it's been so choppy lately, Mike. I feel like every week for the past 2 months has just been up, down, up, down, up, down. Like every time we get a big potential breakout, it just instantly gets sold off right back down.
True. And then before we close out, I want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Lord Squanto, in the YouTube comments. Thanks so much for the hilarious and supportive comments. Tom and I really appreciate it. And guys, check out this video in the middle of the screen right now. It's a brand new format that we're trying out. It's pretty entertaining. Definitely check it out. It's pretty awesome. And let's have a great week.